Hello everyone and welcome to the next in our series of On the Sofa with Servium. My name is Steve Dawes and I'm the Services Director. The purpose of our series is to inform you, educate you and provide you the relevant information when you might be looking at new technologies to implement within your business. Today we're focusing on Hyperconverged. I'm pleased to say I'm joined by Luke Peters from HPE SimpliVity. How are you doing, Luke?
Very good, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Just explain a little bit for our viewers what your role is within HPE.
Absolutely. So I'm a solutions architect within HPE. I came across with the acquisition of SimpliVity into HPE back in 2017. So I've been with the technology now for close to 4 years.
Okay. So as a token of our thanks, I'd like to present you with one of our Servium chili bottles. These are collector's items in the marketplace, very popular.
Magic.
They are something that we like to give to special guests as a token of our appreciation. That will keep whatever tipple you like cold for up to 24 hours. So
thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Luke, for taking the time out today. We do appreciate it. So Luke, there's a lot of talk in the marketplace about hyperconverged infrastructure. So can you maybe explain a little bit about what that is and where SimpliVity fits?
Yeah, sure. So hyperconverged is a generic term and it tends to be the collapsing of multiple services within your infrastructure. Now, commonly that's compute and storage. Where SimpliVity differs is that we don't just do compute and storage, but we look at the additional advanced data services. So that's things like inline duplication and compression, disaster recovery, backup, replication, removing the need for WAN optimization between globally disparate sites. It can be software-defined networking. All of these additional functions are bundled into SimpliVity as part of the product itself. So we're a little bit more than just compute and storage.
So from a customer point of view, how would I benefit from a solution like SimpliVity?
Absolutely. So as you can tell in the name, we make a play on the word simple. So everything we do has it in mind that the VM admin is doing the work and how they would want to achieve the outcome they're trying to do, be it creating storage, creating VMs, new networks, etc., etc. So we want to simplify the environment as much as possible, and that frees up the time of the admin team to go and do new projects, new innovation, projects that are 18 months away. They can now do now because they're the available resource.
So most hyper-converged infrastructure solutions talk about and sort of focus on modularity. So where does this fit with SimpliVity?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the major benefits of hyperconvergence is that modular building block approach. That's exactly how SimpliVity scales out within the environment. So today we're based on two different x86 platforms. We've got the DL380 and we've got the Apollo 2000 platform. So with the DL380, you scale by a modular, you add another DL380, you add another DL380, and that will give you the compute and storage resource as you grow. When you look at the Apollo platform, it's essentially 4 sleds in a 2U unit, so you can scale per sled. So you may start off on day 1 with just 2 sleds, but if you want to scale, you can add another sled and another sled until all 4 slots are filled. And then you add another chassis and you start filling those sleds as well. So there's multiple ways you can do that.
So this modular design and implementation, how does that benefit anyone watching who wants to implement that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest benefit there is if you look at traditional architecture, if you want to scale storage, for example, it's typically another tray of disks. So it's a big lumpy CapEx spend. The thing about SimpliVity and hyperconvergence is that you scale on a much smaller approach. So your purchasing cycles tend to be as and when you require it, you buy it, and at much smaller increments. So you're not having these big CapEx hits every 12 months. You can spread it out across multiple years and realize the value of those additional increments in storage and compute. So you're not having to pay for resource that you're not currently consuming. You buy it when you need it.
So one reservation a lot of people have around sort of hyper-converged and the way you have to sort of scale the infrastructure. Can I buy discrete nodes and storage versus compute?
Yeah, so the way that SimpliVity scales is twofold. Firstly, we can scale out and we can also scale up. So if you want to scale it out, you just add additional nodes that will meet your resource requirements. Quite a straightforward platform there. We also scale up. So if you have spare CPU sockets or RAM slots, we can add additional CPU and RAM. If you want to increase the storage footprint, we can do that. So you can go from a small to a medium to a large node by adding additional storage. We also have a very unique capability of a compute-only node. So if you can obtain a 1U or a 2U server or a Blade, as long as it's got CPU, RAM, and a 10 gig network card, you can add that into your cluster as a compute-only node. So the VM will run on that compute node, but its storage is still residing on the SimpliVity node you already have within the cluster itself.
So how's that going to benefit me as a customer with that type of capability?
Yeah, sure. So if you have an already existing amount of storage and performance, bear in mind SimpliVity is very storage heavy by default. Those data services of inline deduplication and compression make it a very storage heavy platform. If you require additional compute, you don't have to buy a complete SimpliVity node. So you can scale out your compute resources very, very cheaply, very low cost compared to adding additional SimpliVity nodes each and every time.
So this whole modular design and approach from SimpliVity sounds really sort of innovative as approach, but there must be a lot of magic under the bonnet that's sort of powering this. Can you explain a little bit about that for us, please? Yeah,
absolutely. So the SimpliVity software, fundamentally we call it the OmniStack platform, and underneath that is the data virtualization platform, or DVP for short. And this is where the magic happens. So this is where we're performing inline deduplication, compression, optimization of all data as it enters the system. And what that allows us to be is to be extremely efficient with the data. So when we're looking at backups or clones, we're not actually generating any more storage, we're not consuming any more storage. We already have the data on the node itself. We're updating some metadata, and that's what's stored in the DVP. So the DVP is spread across every single node, and every node is able to communicate with the other nodes. So if you want to send a backup from London to Frankfurt, for example, the way we do that is that we don't send all of the data in one go. What we're sending is a block map of that virtual machine. The remote site will look at its own blocks of data and identify which ones it does not have. It will then request the unique ones to be sent across. Before it does, we'll compress that data. So we're sending a fraction of the data across the WAN to the remote site, so we can be very efficient with remote backups and restoration or full restoration of a site to a remote site. We're talking seconds and minutes here.
So it's really impressive to hear about the data services surrounding SimpliVity and that sort of 10-to-1 data guarantee compression. So again, can you explain a little bit more about that for us, Luke?
Yeah, sure. So under the Hyper Guarantee, and the Hyper Guarantee is 5 key areas that we will guarantee that the end user will receive, and that's built into the product warranty. So there's no additional things to sign there, you get it as part of the product itself. The 10-to-1 aspect is around that we will reduce your data footprint by 10-to-1, and that's a combination of primary VM data and SimpliVity backup data at the same time. Now, what we see with most customers is an average of around 40 to 45-to-1. I have seen customers that go beyond 100-to-1, 150, 200-to-1 data efficiency. So your mileage will vary, depends on your types of data and your types of backup policies. But again, on the average, we're seeing around 40-to-1.
So it's good to hear there's all this magic going on underneath the bonnet. So how capable is SimpliVity of automating these processes?
Yeah, so a lot of the things on SimpliVity is automated by default. So the one thing about SimpliVity, again, is we're trying to make things as simple as possible to operate. So we don't have a million different bells, whistles, and knobs to turn and tune. Things like, for example, the inline deduplication and compression, that's not a thing that you can turn off or on. It is on 100% of the time. If you look at when we refer to as the resiliency aspect, so full data locality, you always have 2 full copies of the VMs on separate nodes in the environment. That's not a tunable aspect, that's built into the architecture itself. So a lot of these things, we take a lot of the guesswork out of because it's done automatically, it's done as part of the architecture. When you look at further automating tasks, so we have a command line as well, we can do a lot of scripting there. We also have a fully documented REST API. So if you're using additional automation tools, it might be vRealize automation, it might be something from Micro Focus, it might be something you developed yourself. You can tie into the REST API on SimpliVity and automate those tasks as a part of your existing workflows.
So when I'm talking to a lot of our customers, they all talk about building a hybrid environment as part of their sort of cloud strategy. Where does SimpliVity fit in this?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it comes down to workloads. Where do you want your workloads to run and what are the properties those workloads require? If, for example, you have a low latency, high performance requirement, you're probably going to want to run that on site. And that's where SimpliVity traditionally sits. They are a low latency, high performance, hyperconverged platform. So that's a great workload for us. If you're looking to burst to the cloud, for example, then we would have to use a third-party tool, something like vCloud Director as an example, which allows you that burst capability into the cloud from a SimpliVity environment into a public cloud.
So we're going to have people watching today, Luke, that I think, well, I'm really interested in the message from SimpliVity. I'm really interested in Hyperconverged as a technology. But when do you feel is the best time for a customer to implement this sort of infrastructure? Because I'm sure people think, well, am I going to have to wait until I do a technology refresh, a server refresh? So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, the best time is to look at it now because most customers have a project pipeline that goes on for 12, 18, 24 months. So knowing in advance and being informed in advance or making those decisions is going to really help you position your business case to your business for that technology. Now, as an example, you may have just refreshed your SAN within your general purpose computing platform. So for that particular project, Hyperconvergence probably isn't a good fit. But you tend to have multiple different projects in the environment. You may have test and dev, you may have end user computing, you may have particular database requirements. And so this is where SimpliVity can be leveraged into those particular project areas. I mean, the key use cases for SimpliVity is firstly, core data center refresh. That's a great use case for SimpliVity. End user computing is another great use case. And lastly, what I commonly see in most customers is robo, so remote office, branch office. Because of the way we do that remote replication, backup and DR, your branch offices can basically synchronize back into a core data center area. So there's multitudes of projects in customer environments. If you just refreshed a particular environment, not a problem. Look at us for other areas in your business.
So we talk a lot today, Luke, about SimpliVity, Hyperconverged technology. But for people watching, what would you say are the main three benefits to SimpliVity? Yeah,
sure. So I guess the three main benefits is, I can talk about the marketing blurb, but I like to tell people what customers tell me because they're buying into one thing, but they're getting that and some additional benefits. So I guess firstly is the simplification of the environment, not having to have multiple different panes of glass to manage the infrastructure itself. So not just the compute and storage, but the backup, replication, DR. It's all driven through a single user interface. On the VMware platform, it's vCenter. So if you're familiar with vCenter, you're 90% familiar with SimpliVity as it is today. That additional 10% of knowledge transfer is all that's required and away you go. So it's very, very easy to bring up to speed with. Secondly is around performance. So performance is a key component of SimpliVity. Not only are we a all-flash hyperconverged platform, the inline duplication is a benefit to data efficiency. So that's one benefit, but the main benefit and the main reason why we do inline duplication is for performance. We're essentially eliminating redundant I/O within the environment. So not only are we an all-flash platform, we're eliminating redundant I/O. It makes it very, very quick. If we look at Red Bull Racing, for example, one of my key customers, performance is an absolute critical thing for these guys. So if you look at the average length of a Formula One race, it's about 75, 80 minutes. They're running a database report that used to take about 9 minutes. They're getting it done in around 2 minutes now. So for these guys, they're getting actionable data, real-time data being crunched and giving them outcomes that they can then send back to the race team at the track sides to make changes on the car in real time. For these guys, it's absolutely critical. So performance is the second one there. And lastly is around the business continuity, disaster recovery. So with the built-in and native backup, replication and DR, again, we can simplify the environment by providing those services in a common platform. So you can back up and replicate to a remote site, and it can be not just in the country, it can be somewhere in continental Europe, or it can be the other side of the world, as efficiently as do the local backup and restoring and recovering to those sites if a disaster happens.
So Luke, really appreciate you taking the time out today. I hope you enjoy your chili bottle.
Will do.
Everyone viewing, thank you again for joining us today. Hopefully you found that informative and beneficial. And as Luke said, if you're interested in more information, please get in touch with your Servium account manager or click on the link below, and then we can then arrange a demonstration of the SimpliVity platform. So thanks again, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you. So here we are again for the next round in Servium Tech Truths. So our second guinea pig is Luke today. So what this is all about is a minute of fast fire questions. Got to answer them as quickly, truthfully as you can. And we'll be publishing a leaderboard. So we'll know where you rank in the overall standings against some of your colleagues, for example. So,
Cool. Well, let's go.
a minute. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Let's go.
So let's be honest, let's be truthful. So we'll start now. So Batman or Robin?
Batman.
Intel or AMD?
Intel.
Letter or email?
Letter.
Football or rugby?
Rugby.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Trek.
Simpsons or Family Guy?
Simpsons.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Hard disk or flash?
Flash.
Your favourite football team?
Arsenal.
Favourite film star?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Book or Kindle?
Book.
Cloud or on-premise?
On premise.
People or machines?
People.
Physical or virtual?
Virtual.
Disney or DreamWorks?
Disney.
Software or hardware?
Software.
Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
Your favourite TV star?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Buy or rent?
Buy.
AI, yes or no?
Yes.
Call or email?
Cool.
Open source or proprietary?
Open source.
VMs or containers?
VMs.
Your time's up. Well done. Now, I just want to check with our score master at the back. Have we got any idea what score we're on today? 23. 23. Impressive. Well done. Congratulations.
Cheers,
Thanks
mate.
for participating in that. So we'll see you on the next Tech Truths.